Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. It is your host, DK, and I'm here with Trisha, Christina, Morgan. We are so excited here on December 4th to go over some really important and interesting things as we've built the Burn Bootcamp podcast and listened to all of your requests, all of your questions, all of your ideas. We are going to really start to cover more macro narrative headlines. There's so much out there that you guys are consuming, that you're introduced to via social media and or your own authentic organic searches. And, you know, we wanted to provide perspective and commentary and just help you think through how to consume what's going on in the world. It's important to be informed. We always say an educated member is a retained member. And part of education is understanding what's in our food. What is the science behind some of the things that we are preaching or not preaching here at Burn? What is the truth on all these diet wars and all these opinions that are out there? You know, we really wanted to bring you a straightforward narrative covering some macro story headlines, as well as weaving in the Burn Bootcamp world into our show. And so we're going to cover 4 articles today, some stories coming out of NBC News. One was really important to us, I thought. More women are seeking testosterone therapy. We've actually interviewed a couple hormone specialists, MDs, over the past month here, and we've got some good information from them. We'll talk about that. And, the FDA has new rules. There's brand new rules for TV drug ads. This is coming out of AP News. And there is apparently more simple language and no distraction mandate. We're going to dig into that article. What does that really mean? How CDC could change under the next administration. This is an NPR article. And then finally, a Fox News article. RFK Jr. calls for the removal of fluoride from drinking water. So some really interesting topics that really affect not only your own personal health, but the health of your family. And that's what we're here to do, is to keep you and your family healthy, happy, and progressing through life. And we get to do it together. So welcome, Trish. Welcome, Christina. Welcome, Morgan. How's everybody today? How's it going, Morg?
It's going good.
Going well?
December. Yes, let's go. Holidays are here. Well, Christmas is here. So my favorite holiday is past us, Thanksgiving, and now we're headed to the chaos of Christmas and the spirit of Christmas.
The spiritual chaos of
yeah.
Christmas.
How about you, Christina? How are you doing today? Welcome to the podcast.
Introduce yourself to the podcast world here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christina. I'm the brand photographer for Burn Bootcamp. I'm excited to be here, being like on the podcast with this mic in my face. This is crazy. I'm so excited.
Well, thanks for being here.
All the beautiful pictures that you see out there in Burn Nation.
Yes.
Christina is responsible for those. So
thank you.
You can always catch her behind the camera at all of our events, capturing the moments.
Yeah.
Trisha.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to have Christina here. I love listening to Christina speak in her brain. So you guys are in for a treat, that's for sure. But yes, to Morgan's point, it's December. I think anyone that has kids this month, you blink and it's over. This is probably the furthest behind I've ever been on my holiday situation.
Oh, gosh.
So that is a little stressful as a mom, but you know, I think it just like parents do, we pull it together. We'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I still have the rest of the month. So that's kind of where my brain's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that funny how we get into like the month of December and all of a sudden it's like here, the whole month is just consumed. It's when we're only 4 days in, okay? So you don't panic, Trisha. You got this, all right? Don't panic out there. You got it. We just got to make like lots of progress now. Like, you know, from the 4th to the 8th, we got to like make up some progress here in the next couple days.
Game time.
It's game time. I'm doing great. I'm very excited as well to be here today. I'm in a little bit of a need. I'm in a need right now. I need some motivation. I need some inspiration. And so we went to Claire from Athens, Georgia, who is a Burn Bootcamp member. And if you're looking to get motivated, inspired, and here's an incredible story from Burn Bootcamp, I wanted to bring you Claire from Athens, Georgia. Chelsea, Jordan, can we roll video?
Hey y'all, this is Claire. I just wanted to take a minute to tell y'all a little bit about why I'm so thankful for Burn this season. I honestly came here with the thought that I would just get in and get out and maybe, get a little stronger, lose a lot of weight, and then move on with my life. It's just amazing how God works, and this is such an important place to me, and I'm so thankful for so many people here. My dad died this time last year, and honestly, I don't know that I could get through this whole year without my friends at Burn. It's the type of thing where I show up whether I want to or not, and someone's always here to encourage me or motivate me inside and outside of camp, and I just truly am so blessed to know all of you and to be just so grateful to have you in my life.
Wow. Right? I mean, it's time for gratitude, everybody. And we all need community. I think community is the one glue that holds us all together when we have people that we can lean on. And if you are not part of Burn Bootcamp right now, we have locations all over the country. And Claire is a testament to just how much your life can change when you lean into that community. And so we'd like to invite you to take a test drive, a free trial of Burn Bootcamp at any location across the country. A free trial, okay? Go ahead. There's a link in the show notes to go ahead and do that. And or if you are a Burn member, share it with a friend this holiday season. The opportunity to change your life via community. Yes, the workouts are amazing for sure. It's like my baby, but truly, what makes Burn different and what changes the lives of our members like Claire is the community that holds it together. And she definitely showed that. So
I think too, like, what a great reminder that not everybody goes into the holiday season excited. For some people, it's a really hard time because maybe it's one of the first times without someone special in their life that they've lost. And, so just wanted to also honor anyone listening that, we're sitting here talking about the excitement of the holidays, but we know that there's people out there hurting. But to Devin's point, this is where community comes in, and this is where you really do got to lean on people and share what you're feeling, because so many of us out there want to carry you through these hard seasons of life.
Any thoughts, Trish, Christina?
I mean, it's leaning into what Morgan said. It was me. I was just talking about how I was stressed about, feeling behind, and then you hear a story like that, and it is a good reminder. Also, just outside of community, a good reminder to just use this time during the holiday season to pour into your family and to really cherish every moment that I have with my kids, my family. So that's kind of where my brain's at. How about you, Christina?
I mean, same thing. You hear stories like that, and it really puts into perspective like everyone's unique experiences throughout the holidays, where sometimes you're just, you're overwhelmed. There's so much that you have to do for yourself, for your kids, for work, and then for other people's unique experiences, can be a really harrowing time for them. So coming to a place like Burn, where you have community, you have someone to kind of share the burden with you, whether or not you need to vocalize it, whether or not you just need to show up for your workout and be around like-minded people. I mean, I think that's great. I think that her story is wonderful.
Yeah. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks for sharing, Claire. If you'd like to share your story, podcast@burnbootcamp.com, and Chelsea, producer, is there to communicate with you guys and to bring your story to life here on the Burn podcast. We're going to shoot over to an article on NBC News. The headline is "More Women Seek Testosterone Therapy Prompted by Influencers, Doctors Say." So this one really piqued my interest because you see right now this kind of boom of health clinics across the country that are administering hormones, artificial hormones, synthetic hormones, I think is a more proper term. I know this because we're in franchising here at Burn Bootcamp, and that's what we know and love. And there's a company called Game Day Men's Health that's basically a testosterone distributor, and they're blowing up. And there's just a lot of talk right now. And a lot of it also is coming from influencers. And we've talked a lot on the podcast before on like the spectrum, just like any other profession. Like if an influencer is a profession, which it is, there's going to be those with high integrity and there's going to be those with low integrity, just like anything else. And so, you always have to keep advice kind of in, you have to keep a grain of salt with the advice that you get when you're just scrolling social media, and blindly listening to anybody is a mistake, and you should really be informed and do your own research. So that's kind of what we're doing here. There's a clip that I wanted to show. If we could pull that clip up, and I think it's about a 45-second clip. We can hear this take on NBC News, and we'll get some comments from the panel up here on it.
Thing.
Huge thing. In fact, it's all over social media, TikTok, influencers, medical spas, almost every naturopath you go to, they're talking about whether we should start replacing testosterone in addition to estrogen and progesterone for women around perimenopause or post-menopause. And there's very little science to actually back this. It's not in the guidelines.
I was going to say, you're talking about TikTok and social media, but I didn't hear you say the AMA or the
fact,
Journal of Medicine.
Not a single FDA-approved indication for testosterone replacement in women. Now you can use it in an off-label fashion. So some doctors are saying to some women that if you're really suffering, and the suffering would be symptoms like low sex drive, low energy, depression, sometimes maybe for bone density and some of the other functions testosterone have, they might reach for this. But again, it's pretty rare to do it for medical.
Okay, so you hear that take right there, and obviously, let me give a quick backdrop to this so that we can have a discussion on it. I think there's a couple factors or forces at play here. Number one is that, I don't know if you knew this, but up until 1993, the NIH, the National Institute of Health, which by the way has more pharmaceutical output than Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson combined. So that's just putting in perspective the scale of the NIH. In 1993, women weren't mandated to be studied. Up until 1993, it was only men, right? And clearly, just the fact that women give birth and men don't shows how biologically different we are. And so, some of this cry for help from women seems to be a hangover effect from like, hey, all these things about the male body, all these things about testosterone and how it affects the male body. Like, what about us? And now you have this almost like this tweener time where these influencers are grabbing a hold of what I would probably say is a lack of researched, peer-revised science, or their opinions, or maybe how they felt when they've administered things to themselves, and then turning around and saying, hey, go do this, right? Go do this. You need to do this. You have to do this. And so I think it's too early to tell because we haven't really had institutions that have studied this at scale, but you do, one of the, if we go back to the article, one of the lines that I wanted to pick out from this, it's really at the very, very bottom, and it's at the very bottom of the article actually, and it says, we have ignored women's health for a very long time in this country, says Dr. Vodish. This narrative comes from a place of frustration, and it comes from a place of just wanting to feel better. Yeah. And so, there's two sides of this, and women want to feel better. There hasn't been a lot of medical history in studying the female biology, specifically when it comes to hormones and perimenopause and menopause and all the reasons that women are wanting to get into hormone replacement therapy in the first place. We've had a handful of experts on the Burn Bootcamp podcast. And the last piece of the backdrop is even those people that we are talking to, I kind of pressed them, I pushed them, and I said, but what about the foundational underlying habits, right? Isn't any type of medicine or like specifically hormonal therapy, isn't that looking for something outside of yourself to help solve the problems? Where's the inward strategies first? Are we going to take care of our fitness first? Are we going to take care of our nutrition first? Are we going to sleep and give ourselves a foundation? And then after that, if we're doing those things, I'm all for anything on top of that can make your life more wonderful. But what scares me about this, what really concerns me, is that we rush into the classic miracle pill, miracle drug. You just do this thing, and it takes care of all your problems. And we know from experience that's not the case. If you don't change the underlying behaviors, gastric bypass surgeries, hormonal replacements, men or women, like it statistically doesn't work as nearly as well as if you have the underlying foundational kind of health infrastructure there. And so a very interesting conversation. There's not a lot of science in the mainstream. Influencers are picking it up left and right. They're also a lot of times selling products to you or leaders of these clinicians. So we, just really, I think all of us you three have had experience in this. GLP-1s, semaglutides, these are a part of that whole hormonal therapy game. And so let's just have a conversation about it. I think it's too many people that could represent a conversation don't. And so we want to have one here. I don't want to be scared of opening up and hearing both sides and like, what is this actually really? Morgan?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. When I listen to the clip and read the article, I think there's so much more to it that we're not getting to. And I think you nailed it, that we're not studying women the way that we should be, and we're lagging in that. So yeah, it may not be FDA approved, but the reason this is picking up steam on TikTok is because women are being vulnerable and they're saying, hey, I've found something that has made me feel better, and we are gravitating toward it. And that is typically what we do because we are constantly desperate for just feeling better, looking better, sleeping better, all of these things. And if we can't turn to the medical industry to help us get to the root of it, then we are more apt to try new things that maybe aren't studied completely. But, I think I know somebody I know a handful of people that are on testosterone, and they do have good foundational health. Like, they do work out all the time. They have eat clean for years and years and years, but they still were just constantly tired and low libido, and they're in their 40s and they're like, I shouldn't be feeling like this in my 40s. And so I do think for me, I encourage going to the right doctors. I think there is this era of telehealth and these clinics that are popping up. My biggest fear is that we just need to make sure that we, are testing the right things for a woman to make sure that she can ingest, these extra hormones, because hormones are a tricky thing. And, I have experience with unbalanced hormones, having 3 kids in a span of 5 years and having a stressful job and just being constantly on the go. Women weren't used to be doing that, back in, the last generation, that wasn't the thing, where we were having babies, but then also having demanding jobs and demanding lifestyles and a fast-paced lifestyle. So it has impacted a lot of our hormones. And again, I don't think we've kept up with the right studies to help when we go to the doctor and we say, I don't feel good, and they take your labs and they're like, everything's normal. And it's like the worst feeling ever. And I've been there. I've been told, yeah, it's normal. You feeling this way is you're just probably stressed from your job. And it's just so defeating because you feel like you're being gaslit in the doctor's office. And so, but again, they're going based off their research. They're going based off what the CDC and the FDA and all the medical journals, and it's very behind. So, again, getting back to the testosterone topic, I don't have much more to share, although I think we have a lot more room to support women and men, but women specifically, on just feeling their best.
Christina, your thoughts?
Oh, I have so many.
Let's hear it.
So I think what both of you touched on that's really great is that we're not looking at this through an intersectional lens. All of these different material conditions and everyone's lived experience, the research, all of them intersect, right? And where women don't have the support systems like they used to, like with our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, where our families were surrounding us, living in the same homes, raising our families. And all of that contributes to our cortisol, our stress. And when there's medical gaslighting and there's not enough research done on women's health, women who are suffering are going to look and try to find ways to help lift themselves up, to help to get better. And so that leaves room for exploitation. And unfortunately, some of these medical clinics, that they don't have a board that they have to answer to. They're not being regulated. So this exploitation of women's insecurities, of their health, that is real and truly happening. And the underlying issues are that we are just not supporting women's health in the way that we need to, in a way that's probably never been done. There is systemic factors that we have to consider. There is the historical record that we have to consider. And that means that if we take that into account, a lot of the times women were not tested. Perimenopausal women were not tested. Menopausal women were not tested. And a lot of times the male prototype has been the basis for all of our research. And you just have to be able to recognize both the socioeconomic factors that come into women's health and the historical factors of why women distrust going to the doctor, why they're looking for alternative means for help. I mean, just what Morgan was talking about, there's nothing like knowing your own body and knowing something is wrong and you go to the doctor and everything's fine. No, I know myself. I know that this isn't right. So that gaslighting creates distrust, and there will be somebody who can commodify your health that will be willing to exploit that. And I personally think a lot of times it looks like these medical clinics, these med spas.
Trisha?
Well said.
My brain kind of goes a different direction with this because this whole idea of quick fix really bothers me in the sense of, I think a lot of females, and I know men deal with it too, but you're scrolling on social media and they're called influencers because they have influence. And while I appreciate that, what we're doing is we're bringing to light topics that we are not talking about. We're not talking about low libido. We're not talking about why women feel different and how it could be perimenopausal. Like, I'm just now realizing this conversation, and I appreciate that. But what I get nervous about is the women that hear these things and want the quick fix and don't either go to the doctor to educate themselves and learn more about their body, or go get a second opinion. Don't think about it. They just want to go ahead and be like, hey, this person on TikTok is dealing with the same thing that I'm dealing with. It must be that we have the same, issue going on with our body, but we're all different.
Yeah.
Every body, we say that at Burn Boot Camp, every body is different. And so I just really want us to take a second and understand what are they saying, and then go get that second opinion. Again, it's good that we're bringing these topics to light, but I just don't like that people can just go do whatever they want and put whatever they want in their body, because it could end up doing some damage. That's where my brain's at.
Yeah, and I think it is definitely uncharted territory, and I'm interested to see I think over the next administration, there's a big push to a big mandate to get rid of a lot of regulation that is in the way of actually going and catching women's health studies up to where it should be, where it needs to be. And I think through that we can get a lot of answers. And the advice that I would have is just very, very practical. It's do everything that you can that's within your control, right? The behaviors, the underlying behaviors, and give yourself time and consistency to do those things. Let's eliminate lifestyle causes first, right? That we can control. We live in an environment that's outside of our control as well. Epigenetics is essentially the play of environmental factors down-regulating or up-regulating our DNA over generations. And so when we are breathing smog in New York City for our whole lives, right, that then becomes, and our parents did that too, and their parents did that too, epigenetics would say that is now downloaded into generations that are coming after us. And so health is going to change. And I just think that the underlying interest for me here is the National Institute of Health, all the health policy bodies, right? The World Health Organization, the CDC, the FDA, really getting audited and really getting speed to actual science. And, I know Morgan and I have talked about on the podcast before the difference between, kind of an independent study and then a sponsored study. But it's not even that black and white. You can have sponsored studies that actually have integrity, and you could have independent studies that don't. And so it's so confusing out there right now to be able to navigate what to do. And so therefore my advice is turn inward. What are the behaviors that that have been around forever, right? Are you around a community that is supporting you in every way possible? Do you have friends talking about stress and environmental stress, having a community to share that stress with is the ultimate deterrent of manifesting that stress as then a part of your personality. If you can go blow a steam off, let's just say at a burn boot camp or at church, or if your work is your community, whatever it is, find people that you can surround yourself with that want to also enact those underlying behaviors, those healthy behaviors that we can control. Start from the inside out, and then go out very slowly, very methodically, go one by one. Do you need to get a hormone panel? Sure you do, but you should probably get a hormone panel after 6 months of homeostasis, right? Like 6 months of you eating the right food, doing the right things, letting your body recover. See where you're at a healthy baseline. My concern that I share with Trish is that, you know, for generations this is media, right? This is traditional media. They've said, you know, this potion coming out is, you know, the elixir, the ultimate beauty elixir, and if you drink apple cider vinegar, your life's going to change. It's like, try drinking apple cider vinegar and then having none of the underlying health habits. You know, eating fast food and drinking apple cider vinegar is going to cancel each other out, let's say. So can we take an audit of what our personal health is, our familial health, and can we start to say food number 1, exercise number 2, and everything else after that? So speaking of FDA, there is the next article, the next story. We're gonna really follow the FDA closely. They have new rules for TV drug ads, which is different, exciting, simpler language, and no distractions from the AP News. So there's a clip for this as well. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Clear and direct when it comes to TV ads. The rules take effect next Wednesday, though many companies have already adopted them. It requires companies to use simple, concise language while describing medication without distracting visual and audio effects. Companies also need to display text about side effects on screen and have audio of that information as well. There is a separate effort in Washington to get the FDA to carefully watch promotions from influencers and telehealth companies who often advertise on social media.
Yes, that level of accountability.
Yeah. Go in, Christina.
Well, I'm really excited to hear that level of accountability on the social media side of things, because algorithms, reactionary content is what lives and breathes and thrives and performs the best on social media. So hearing that we're going to have an extra level of accountability there where disinformation is so apparent, that's awesome. I'm definitely excited for that.
Morgan?
Yeah, I agree. I think this level of accountability is great. To be honest, I've been living in a bubble. I don't watch a ton of like cable TV, but I was for, you know, just a couple, like the NASCAR, you know, playoffs and just other things that like the kids were watching, and football, you know, has come back on, and I'm just like, oh my God, there is a lot of these commercials. Like, and there, I mean, I was, you know, I'm thankful that I do live in a bubble of like streaming of like Netflix, but the social media side of it, you're right. Like I am still on social media, and, you know, I'm still being delivered ads, but no, I'm glad that we're going to crack down on that, because, you know, it's, people do believe what they hear. You know, there's just people out there that take everything that's said verbatim, and then they're just like, okay, I need to be on that drug. So
How you disseminate information matters.
Yeah.
It really does.
So I used to believe that the United States was the only country where it was legal to market pharmaceutical drugs on TV, but it actually turns out there's 2 countries. One is New Zealand and one is the United States. And every other country, it is illegal or somewhat illegal to market pharmaceutical drugs on television. And that's interesting, isn't it?
yeah, you know, as I was listening to that clip, sorry, Trish, if you were going to say something, but I was thinking to myself, like, what is the benefit of us hearing about pharmaceutical drugs? Like, shouldn't we just be able to go to the doctor and be prescribed the right thing? But I'm like, also devil's advocate is like, you know, we should be open to learning about different drugs that are out there to be advocates for ourselves when we are in the doctor's office. But I don't know. I almost am like, what is the benefit of us actually being served these ads?
They're billion-dollar companies, and what bothers me is that in the article they said these pharmaceutical companies are going to social media because it's cheaper than TV, which from the marketing space, I understand that, but also I have a problem with it being a commercial on TV, because I do agree with you, Morgan. Like, the doctor should tell me based off of what my whatever test we did, because I'm feeling a certain way, this is what they recommend. Because I watched a commercial on Ozempic that I swear is like, and football's on all the time, I swear it's always there. And I'm like, this is just what's in consumers' heads now. And there's a reason why it was created, right? And the people that need it should have it. But if you don't need it and you're just hearing these side effects, you're just hearing what could happen, and it's a positive, your brain says, oh, I guess I need Ozempic, when really your doctor should be the one telling you that.
Yeah.
Here's why I think it's illegal, and this is just my opinion. There's probably more sophisticated language out there that could be used, but to me, being an inherent marketer, there's like permission marketing, and then there's interruption marketing, meaning like there's permission. I give you permission to market your products and your services to me, versus, hey, I'm sitting here and I'm watching a football game and I am completely tranced out. I am zoned in, like I'm just like in my space of my own free time. I'm trying not to think about anything, right? My mind's going blank. This is my escape. I'm watching Sunday football. And then all of a sudden, without your permission, bang, Ozempic can really help you live a happy life and, lose all the weight fast. And I don't demonize or put on a pedestal Ozempic or Wegovy or these GLP-1s, these semaglutides. It's the same philosophy for me with any other supplemental strategies that you would use, is go inward first and build the health foundations and the behaviors that are going to be the 95% of it, and then layer on whatever else you need to help, fix any inefficiencies that you might have in your hormonal profile or your biology. So go do that, and that's okay. But it's like, the problem I have with this marketing is that it is interrupting people strategically when you're zoned out, when you're tranced out, and you're just watching it like, oh, tell me how to think. And this is what happens, is it's just programming people how to actually think. And we have this, I hate this word's overused, this epidemic word, but I feel if we are going to use it, I think there's an epidemic of people not thinking for themselves. And so this just kind of feeds into that. The FTC, we're familiar with the FTC. It governs a lot of just the trade, the commercial trade and advertising and marketing. And so we know how strict they are. And hopefully this isn't just like word. This isn't just, just words or a headline, that these rules and in these drug ads that do call for simpler language and no distractions actually follow through. Because this line 2 here, if we go back to the article, says, and you can see this on your screen, the U.S. and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration spent more than 15 years crafting the guidelines, which are designed to do away with the industry practices that downplay or distract viewers from risk information. So I'm reading this article, and it doesn't really come back to 15 years. Wait a second. You just kind of snuck that one in there. What does this mean, that you've been crafting these guidelines for 15 years and you're making them better every year? We haven't been following them for 15 years. Like, did any of you guys catch that in this article, of that sneaky little 15 years of crafting? Then it has highlighted guidelines. You can go in, you can actually click in this article, the guidelines, and it takes you to a white paper. If you could, can we do that on the screen, you guys? If you're following it, here's the white paper. It takes you right to direct-to-consumer prescription drug advertisements. The presentation of the major statement in a clear, conspicuous, and neutral manner in advertisements in television and radio format. Final rule, questions and answers, guidance for industry. This is a compliance guide from the Department of Health and Human Services, the FDA, the CDER, and the CBER. So,
I mean, this doesn't surprise me. This is why I've said this before, there's corruption in a lot of these big industries that own the ability to make the guidelines what they see fit. And there's no checks and balances. There's no one kind of challenging them to say, hey, if this isn't rooted in science and truth to the consumer, then you can't do it. I think people have been getting away with it because money talks. We've just talked about how pharmaceuticals are $1 billion a business. So I think it's interesting. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys is, how do you feel about influencers or celebrities endorsing certain drugs? Because I saw a commercial during my outside the bubble viewership of cable TV, and John Legend was like still encouraging people to get the COVID shot. And it was interesting because I was like, I am so out of it. I was like, first of all, we're still asking people to get this. And then secondly, like, interesting how John Legend like they're just trying to pull off that celebrity endorsement. And I think it makes me mad that they think people are so gullible to just do whatever a celebrity says to do, but it is actually, it's working probably for them. So I wonder if that should be a restriction as well.
I wonder if it is. It seems
Well,
like
it's not right now.
it seems like they haven't been following the rules for a long time. So I think anytime you have the opportunity to have a celebrity endorse your product, I mean, it's classically going to work, right? So you kind of have to have those rules.
Yeah, so essentially what we're talking about is the commodification of healthcare, right? And when you have the commodification of healthcare and you're able to market your product, it's really just advocacy groups, sorry guys, that come in and really like say, hey, this isn't ethical, this is kind of problematic, we should maybe reel this back in. But there's a lot of bureaucratic things that those advocacy groups have to go through. And when your skills are in marketing and you have $1 billion marketing campaign and you are selling a commodification of health, the lines they get very blurry, and a lot of people trust brands. That's part of building a brand identity. So the more that you are showing these pharmaceutical drugs on commercials that have been studied and your responses are studied to them, it's tailor-made to make you trust them. That's why they're building a brand identity. So the thing that I question, I treat every single day like April Fool's, right? I have a healthy level of skepticism for just about everything. And I encourage people that whenever they consume any content, especially something that has a $1 billion backing, that they treat it like April Fool's.
Yeah.
Ask critical questions and know that you are being sold something, and that means something.
It honestly bothers me. I mean, we got a compliment one time. I was on an interview and they said that they appreciate like our marketing is ethical and that we don't try and trick people. And I'm proud of the brand that we have because we are just wanting people to feel better. And even if we do have maybe down the road a celebrity, the intention is positive. It's not to do something to come over the top and kind of make you feel like
switch.
Like no, that's not how I personally, this is obviously my opinion, I see right through that, and then it bothers me, and it honestly makes me then not like the person that's actually like getting paid, because we know he's getting paid a ton of money to do that, when people should be making their own decisions based off of their own health at the end of the day
and their own research, not thinking, oh well, this person, they must have done their research. Like, no, they got paid.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so. A lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of money, and that's enticing, right? And I think people will sell their souls, even if they don't believe in stuff. A lot of times they'll sell their souls to get that check, to get that bag. Money motivates. It's unfortunate. You couldn't pay me to do one of those things, that's for sure. Listen, we have new locations, you guys, at Burn Boot Camp, with 3 brand new locations. I wanted to shout these locations out because 415, 416, and 417 are here, everyone, okay?
Woo.
1 in North Carolina, 2 in Georgia. We have 415 Southern Pines, North Carolina. Brittany and Jonathan Mays, shout out to you guys. Brittany's first and Jonathan's first location. 416 is Bethlehem, Georgia. Heather and Lee Smoke. This is their multi-unit location owners, and this is their second location. And then you have 417 in Sprayberry, Georgia, and the owners of this location have 2 locations as well. And so we're just growing all over the map, specifically this week in North Carolina and Georgia. So you can also become a part of the Burn Boot Camp franchise partner community, opening your own Burn Boot Camp with us. Trisha's our VP. Christina's on the photography. Morgan's the CEO. She's the boss lady running the mothership.
Come join us.
And I'm hosting the podcast. Let's go. All right. Well, congratulations to you 3 locations, and you can also go to burnbootcamp.com to check out those locations and hundreds more across 43 states now, guys. 43 states. We growing. Amber from Concord asks us a question, everybody. You guys ready for this one?
Yeah.
All right. She's asked us, she says, how do you guys see the fitness industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? Oh, this is my bread and butter. I'm going to go last. There's only one question on here, Morgan, for the visionary, and this is the one right here. So
Okay, well, why don't you take it then?
No, I'm going to go last. I want to start with, I don't want to take your spotlight or any of your good ideas, because maybe I can feed off of your energy to go. All right, Trisha, what is your outlook on the fitness industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
You know, it's so funny, Devin, because when I read this question, I'm so in our space, and I'm so in our your head and Morgan's head of where we want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. That's where I went. But then I think about just the industry in general, and I think about, social media, and I think about quick fixes, and I think about what people are craving to just have easier access to things. So I think AI is going to play a huge role in the evolution of fitness. We all know that. That's already started. But then it's really just, we say it in our marketing, but I think it's going to even be more necessary in the next 5 and then 10 years. I don't even know what that looks like, but to meet people where they are. So how can I make it easier for someone to get their fitness routine in? Because to Morgan's earlier point, we're busy people. It's really easy to make an excuse to not go work out. So I think it's definitely going to be convenience. How can I just get this really conveniently at my fingertips, right? So that's why we have Burn on Demand. How can I get health delivered to me at my fingertips? I mean, we're already on track with meals delivered to your door. So I think it's just going to get more and more. That's the route that I see it. And also, how can it just become a one-stop shop? So I don't have to go to multiple different places to consume or to get what I need for when you think about health as a holistic viewpoint. It's just going to be back to convenience. How can I just go to one place and get everything that I need to feel better? So I know I didn't really answer the question in detail.
I thought you answered it pretty good. That's a good vision.
Okay.
That's a great vision.
That's where I'm at.
Christina.
So I'm really hopeful. I'm chronically online. I'm the most chronically online 35-year-old woman that you will ever meet in your entire life. And so I have a lot of concern and empathy for the younger generation, with their fitness, their mobility, all of those things, especially when it becomes they're finding their community in online spaces that's almost exclusive. And I'm beginning to see this desire for a more analog experience. And I'm hoping that is going to translate into fitness, that this might be the mechanism that they have more analog experiences. There's definitely been more conversations and more desire for that. So I would love to see things like Burn on Demand be like part of their wheelhouse, to get them outside, to make them feel grounded, to really go out and make meaningful connections with real people. And I think that there is such a deficit of that connection, especially online, that I think in 10 years, we are going to be more analog. It is going to be improved and more involved with AI and all that, but there's going to be a connection that happens there. And I'm really rooting for that. I'm hanging out there for our chronically online Gen Z and their future. I'm here, so I'm excited to see what happens.
Morgan.
I agree with both of you. I think you guys said it best, and we've talked about AI a little bit on the podcast and kind of the future of that and how it will impact the fitness industry. But I think, even this next generation, they are researchers too. They're out there learning and not just listening to their mom and dad. They're out there listening to what is the research say. And so I think the more we can educate and empower why fitness and exercise and being around people are good for their health. I agree. I think then they'll gravitate towards that. But at the same time, I think technology will continue to advance and find ways to still meet them where they're at, whether that's at their home or whatnot. But I do think, we are still going to see a swing back from the pandemic of being in your home. And we have an on-demand product that is at-home fitness, but I still think there's more to come swing in the next couple of years of community-based and just being around people. And because we are becoming more and more busy as just a culture, and I think just that pause of being around people and connecting over one thing will continue to be a trend. At least I hope so.
Me too.
Well, I think my take is going to be on what will change versus what won't change, and I'm going to try to attempt to do this concisely, but I think one change that's going to drive a lot of cascading changes downstream, we've talked about it a lot here this episode, is the health policy at the government and the federal level. There's a lot of overreach, there's a lot of regulation, a lot of oversight, and laws that have got stacked over the years with no mechanism to then to pull those laws away, right? So you just keep stacking regulations on over and over and over and over and over. Eventually, there's so many regulations where you can't really do much, and especially like get new science through and things like that. Like, how long does it take? Elon Musk has a famous quote. He said, I could build the world's biggest rocket ship faster than they could move a piece of paper from one desk to another. And in order for us to solve the issues, let me just kind of give you some statistics around the issues and why I think that the government health policy is the foundation, right? Because that's the body of information that the general public trusts. It's the public health organizations. And right now, today, that has led us to statistic number one: over 40% of American adults are obese. As of 2020, 42.4% are classified as obese, nearly doubling since the early 1990s. Okay, doubling. Think about doubling. That's insane. Our food supply is in shambles. That's the main driver. Fitness is actually getting better. More people are moving. More people are working out. More people are realizing that. I think, and children are going to start to realize that, because right now 1 in 5 children are obese. 19.7% of children from 2 to 19. That's 14.7 million kids right now today. That's not good. That's not good. I don't think any of us would say that is good. The costs for obesity, $173 billion. Obesity is the second largest leading cause of preventable death. 70% of U.S. adults are overweight or obese. There's 2 different categories. And for overweight being, and a lot of this is by body mass index too. There's some caveats to this. I'm not saying that there's not, there's other considerations, but just generally speaking, over 90% of adults with type 2 diabetes are overweight. The South and the Midwest have the highest obesity rates. So there's a big dent that needs to be made if we're the leaders of the world too, right? American health has always been, since the 1900s, late 1800s, we've always been the leader. We've always been the leader in world health, and now we're spending more on healthcare than any other country, and we're one of the worst in terms of outcomes, and these are the outcomes that we all care about. I don't think obesity is bad inherently from a value perspective. I think being too obese is dangerous from a health perspective, because the statistics can back that up. And so, number one, government health policy and just getting to the truth there, I think, will really help cascade a lot of industry, especially the pharmaceutical industry that seems to be interwoven into and incentivized to work hand in hand with the health policy to do things like spend a lot of money on advertising and be able to talk to people about Ozempic in the middle of their football game and all these things. Okay, so there's that. I think from a fitness company perspective, fitness companies, because of this, are going to move more to the front lines or to the back lines. So meaning like the back lines of fitness in health, which is the medical industry, kind of after I've already gotten sick industry, versus the preventative industry is going to become closer and closer and closer into one and the same. And academia is going to start taking fitness a lot more seriously. I think this is an amazing opportunity for Burn Bootcamp, because we are young, we're hungry, we have a lot of desire to help really shape that and be on the front lines of that. And I want to lean into more science and more an academia approach. And I think we'll lead that largely, but I do believe that there'll be a handful of companies that really do lead that. Insurance companies, we're going to start covering nutrition. I think we know, Morgan and I know a lot about the insurance companies that really back health. And right now you have insurance companies that'll pay for your fitness membership, but we know that they're testing, Southwest, or I think it's Southern California, there's testing right now with a few big insurance companies of what does it look like if I can actually cover people's meal plan under insurance as well. So this tells me that big industry is starting to look at food as a real viable source to mitigate health, right? And because it's all gonna boil down to the money. So if I can insure somebody based on taking care of them on the preemptive end, I can give them food and nutrition, and that saves me money down the road. I'm going to do that all day long. I think social media will turn more into X. X has community notes that call out bullshit on anybody that might share pseudoscience or might, if you're an influencer on X and you're full of it, everyone knows. everyone knows because you have community notes right there and everyone holds you accountable. I think that will, Elon Musk and X will lead the way. I think you already start to see that happening in Facebook and Meta when they tag things that are made with AI. And there's going to be more transparency and truth and trust because of people like Christina who are on the internet looking at these things, caring about these things, right? Looking out for the younger generation, raising your hand and saying, hey, I have a problem with this. Because of that work, I think that is definitely going to happen. Let's see. I think brand loyalty will matter, and brand loyalty with omni-channel presence. As we move into audio is going to be more and more and more the way that we search for things. My kids aren't, search it up. But don't they all say that? Hey, just search it up. Right now we're doing that on our phones. But if I put a Google Home on my counter and I ask the kids to search it up, they'll say, hey, Google as default. So I think this voice search will be it's a kind of something that not a lot of people talk about, but I think the voice search and humans moving to voice search will be very important. That's why I say brand loyalty, because they're not going to say, hey, they'll say like workout near me, and the most popular brand, just like it does now, will populate on the algorithm. Or more importantly, people won't say find a workout near me. They'll say, where's the nearest burn boot camp? Right. And now I know exactly what I'm looking for. So I think that will have something to do with it. And just a couple more points very, very quickly is that omni-channel access, meeting members where they are. I second that with Trisha, meaning that if I have a digital membership and all physical gym memberships will be not required, but they will be dominated by other brands if they don't come along on the digital side, follow people, meet them where they are. What won't change is strength as a foundation to human health. That's not going to change. That's always been here. That's always been who Burn has been. Now the traditional narrative is really catching up to that. I don't think, so the human movement patterns aren't going to change. The fundamental exercises that we need to be efficient at in order to move efficiently and functionally as a human, that will not change. But most importantly, and this is where I think a lot of the industry, specifically in fitness, goes wrong, is they chase the new shiny things. They want to go, incorporate semaglutides and GLP-1s and Ozempic into their model right away because it's hot. Well, you know what's been hot for ages and for thousands of years? Community, right? We are tribal and we need each other, and that is such an unsung hero of health. So I think that's probably where we'll be at in the next 5 years for sure. In the next 10, I don't know. I might not have a job anymore because AI is gonna take my job. No, I don't think community's going anywhere. I don't think the trainer member or client relationships are going anywhere. The connection isn't going to go anywhere. We all desire that. I mean, think about what the worst form of punishment is. And for humans, what is it? Throw you in a cell and lock you in solitude. Like that there should just tell us that we need each other. So that's my spiel. That's where I think we're going to be. That's a great question, by the way. I love that question. I dreamed about that question last night. That was a good one, Amber from Concord. Thanks. If you guys want to submit your questions, podcast@burnbootcamp.com. Producer Chelsea's here to speak with you. You know what? We're going to go to how CDC could change under the next administration. This is just a quick one. We obviously, Centers for Disease Control, we have a new administration coming down the line. What do they say might change under the administration? There's no clip for this one. So in its 78-year history, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has evolved from its original origins tackling malaria and becoming an agency. So this agency, for those that don't know the CDC, although it's been made very popular in the recent years due to the pandemic and the COVID pandemic, this CDC has been what we've been conditioned to look to in America since I can remember, since pretty much forever. What is it? What sticks out to you or what do you hope changes with the CDC, if anything? Start with you, Trish.
So what really bothered me about this article, I actually listened to it. So if you go to the show notes, you can listen to it, which I love to multitask. I listened to it 2 times, and it was like he said, she said. So it really depends on who's in office. And I think that's what bothers me is you have this old administration, and it doesn't matter what political side you're on. It's going to, if in my opinion, it's going to bother you either way because the previous administrations blaming the new administration because they don't agree with the changes that they're going to make, but the new administration doesn't agree with the change that the old administration has. So for me, I just want there to be a process that's backed by science, that doesn't have anyone's opinions involved. That's where I would like to see this go, and eventually like have the CDC not be, I think to Morgan's point, like it's corrupt based off of who is in office. And I don't care at the end of the day who's in office. We should be able to trust what is being represented for us. And so that was really, I couldn't get over that part of this whole article. It was just like, really, this is how we're going to approach it? Is like, the Obama administration doesn't agree because it's the Trump administration. And for me, it just kind of lost all credibility.
Yeah, I agree. It was very skeptical and just a lot of assumptions. You know, RFK isn't in a position right now. Obviously, he's talked and he's campaigned about certain things that he would do, but ultimately I think we have to wait and watch and see what actually comes to fruition. You know, I know there's a lot of fear for people that budgets are going to get cut and misinformation is going to come out about vaccines. Ultimately, if we're rooted in science and truth, then that should be we should be able to get to that, right? And it's bipartisan, in my opinion. You know, there is a lot of information that I think hasn't been studied on vaccines, and you know that I only speak to that just because it came up. But again, as a mom, or you know, just as a human, I just want to know what are both sides of the argument, so then I can make a decision the right way, and I want to make sure truth isn't being withheld. That's my thing, and so I don't think there's too much more to say other than this is still very premature to say what's going to happen with the CDC today, December 4th, before any new office has been put into place.
Yeah, I think what's certain, and I'll go to you, Christina, next. I think what's certain is that there will be a reduction of or a diminishment of reach and influence on a lot of government agencies. The whole mandate right now that the American people voted for is to deregulate. That's one of the main initiatives here. And deregulation will diminish the reach and the influence from companies like the CDC, who, by the way, classically in I think is the early 90s. Can you guys Google this for me? It was in the early 90s, I believe, when the first food pyramid came out. And the first food pyramid was like the most obvious example of lobbyists from big marketing, big food, big pharma companies. It was obvious that that there was some dirty hands in there, because you know, you look at the food pyramid, and the food pyramid was the very bottom of it was like what we now know to be basically cookies, candies, and cakes, right? Which we know are it's the exact opposite. And so I believe, let's see, do we have an article in 1992? Yeah, so it came out in 1992. Is there a picture of the old food pyramid? So we'll pull up a picture so that you guys can see it. But the base layer were, you know, bread, grains, potatoes, other carbohydrate-rich foods. The middle layer was moderate, were thought to be consumed moderately, and this was things like vegetables and fruits. And then the top layer, that's supposed to be consumed, the top layer, sparingly, including fats and oils and sweets. So we now know that, like, you know, for example, avocado and the fat from avocado and the fat from fish, for example, are very, very important to human health, especially in women. So, excuse me. So you see the food pyramid here. This is the one that came out in 1992. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the CDC published the food pyramid. Yeah, so the Center for Disease Control obviously thinks that food is important because they were the ones to publish the food pyramid, although it was largely misleading. This has been completely flipped on its head since, by the way. They no longer endorse this style. But just giving you a little context of like how far overreach can go when there is divisive, corrosive forces that are ultimately putting outcomes like this to the public. We're supposed to trust, but you know, according to this article, only 27% of people trust. Well, people, I guess this is saying on the right side, trust the CDC a great deal or quite a lot. So the vast minority actually have trust in the CDC on that side of the house. So I'm not looking to the CDC for information without scrutiny, without a breadth of other research around it. Christina?
the same thing as what I said before. I treat every day like it's April Fool's, right? That healthy level of skepticism. For me, I am a stakeholder in our government. My neighbor is a stakeholder in the government. Our community, our people are stakeholders in the government. What we do not have the opportunity to be is stakeholders in privatization, right? And so when you cannot divorce private entities from the government, I think that's a real problem. And so how can we address that? How can we begin to divorce those two things where science is the basis for the decision making that is happening? Because when the profit is the motive, how can I trust that my health, my family's health, that those are the top priorities if profit is driving that motive? So I have a lot of questions that isn't necessarily looking at the face of what the CDC is putting out there. And I don't necessarily think that even who's in office has as much say over the CDC as what the lobbyists do and things like that. So I have a healthy level of skepticism towards where the money is coming from, who benefits from it, and does it benefit my family and myself. So that's kind of where I lie with it. It remains to be seen what this next administration is going to do with the CDC, but I think that the bigger question to me is, what are the private entities that are commodifying our health and all of that stuff? How are we going to have a more democratic relationship with them?
I agree.
Any other thoughts on the CDC? Okay, guys, we're gonna talk about, speaking of science, by the way, one thing that hasn't changed and one thing that won't change in the future is your need for protein. At Burn Boot Camp, we say get 100 grams of protein at the minimum, and then you want to get eventually about 0.8 to 1.0 grams per wanted body pound, if that makes sense. Okay, so as a general rule of thumb. And so we know how crazy life is. We know how grab and go you are as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as somebody. You're not here listening to us on this podcast unless you're a go-getter, right? Like if you're ambitious for the future, for growing yourself personally, professionally, you're here, right? And so in order to fuel that, 100 grams of protein at the minimum will get you up to a gram per body pound. But Afterburn has been formulated for you to maximize muscle growth and recovery, and we need to get our protein within 30 minutes after every camp, which got to get that 23 grams down. It's no sugar added or artificial flavors. This delicious, I mean, you see the chocolate one there? Tell me that's not, it tastes like chocolate milk. I put a little almond milk in there, unsweetened almond milk, 2 scoops of chocolate Afterburn. That's 46 grams, 23 per scoop, and I got 46 grams in right away. So whether you like it chocolate, you like it vanilla, you like a little bit of both, a little mixture, you gotta have 100 grams of protein in your body every single day. So make sure you click the link, follow the show notes to get your Afterburn protein powder today. All right, quick rapid fire. Morgan, are you a vanilla or are you a chocolate gal? Go.
Chocolate.
Christina.
Chocolate.
Trisha.
Chocolate all the way.
Oh, we're chocolate all the way around. I like to mix some vanilla in there too. Stop laughing at me, Christina, okay? All right. You guys, Christina's giving me did you just say something dirty but unintentionally? Yes. Okay.
I plead the fifth.
little bit of both. Okay. All right. Listen up. We have one more article to go over for you guys. Speaking of, we're talking about a lot of macro narratives today on the podcast, a lot of storylines. The last one we want to cover comes from Fox News. We all know that, fluoride has been made very popular. It's a very popular topic right now. Health experts have conflicting views on the potential harms and benefits from fluoride, from its drinking water. We have an article for this clip. We're going to go ahead and show that article now.
Move it. And now a win in court for those wanting more oversight. A federal judge ordering the EPA to further regulate fluoride in drinking water. The determination stemming from a U.S. government report from the National Toxicology Program concluding that fluoride at 1.5 milligrams per liter, twice the recommended amount in drinking water, is linked to lower IQ levels in children. The study was based primarily on data from non-U.S. countries, including Canada, China, and Mexico, getting higher levels of fluoride. But it also found that about 1.9 million people, or less than 1% of the U.S. population, are getting naturally occurring fluoride at levels of 1.5 or higher. Judge Chen writing in his ruling that while it's not established fluoride levels in U.S. water is causing lower IQ in kids, the EPA still must act, saying, and I quote, simply put, the risk to health at exposure levels in United States drinking water is sufficiently high to trigger a regulatory response by the EPA.
The federal ruling stated.
Okay. So there's a lot of interesting things here. I've studied IQ quite a bit, actually. And I've also studied EQ quite a bit because I wanted to know the difference. If you take EQ and IQ, you put them together, that equals intelligence, right? Your emotional intelligence, your ability to be self-aware and then to know yourself in your surroundings. And then IQ is more of the intellectual intelligence. That's your ability to solve problems. How fast can you solve problems? And it's always been said, based on all the psychological research that has been done and is largely accepted amongst the psychologist community, that IQ is an inherent trait that can't be changed. You are born with it, period, end of stop, full stop, end of story. And that all these things like the brain games and there's like influencers out there that say that you can get your IQ to be higher. It's actually proven that you cannot get your IQ higher or lower. You're just born with it up until this point, and I'm always going to stay open-minded when I'm speaking about these very important topics with you all. But one thing that struck me, like I'm all for researching and digging into fluoride, and if it's having a negative effect on IQ, let's talk about that and let's fix that, because that's terrible, and we shouldn't have something that is the essential human element, water, H2O, be impacting us in such a negative way to where it's making our population, for lack of a better term, like clinically more ignorant, right? Not like an insult. Like if our IQ lowers as a world, we're going to have less productivity and less freedom. So, but there's never usually one answer to something so complex as IQ. So to say, hey, fluoride is the cause of IQ going down in children, so there's this one cause to this complex thing that you're going to call the lowering of IQ, which, by the way, has never been proven to never actually be never actually move based on every study done in the past. I'm not saying in the future. I'm skeptical of that too. If that is true and IQ can be moved, fluoride may very well have something to do with it, and we should look into that. And we shouldn't have we shouldn't have elements and molecules in our drinking water that are causing any type of health ailments, right? There should be no negative side effects of water. That's my opinion. But to say that there's one fundamental source and this one thing is the reason for that really complex problem, it's hard to buy into that kind of vertical narrative. So I'll start with Trish. Obviously the EPA, they're looking into, they're now saying this is a big enough issue and it's on the health radar of all of us and all of you out there that we do need to look into this and we need to get to the bottom of it, which is great. Let's get to the bottom of it.
Well, I have a couple lines that I pulled out of this article as I was reading it and digesting it, because it goes from like, obviously the fluoride, they talk about how it can impact children's IQ, which scares me as a mom, but then the benefits of fluoride for your dental health. So like there's a couple of different things in here that we're reading about. And one of the lines that I just wanted to read out loud was, while there are
anecdotal.
Why can't I read that word? Reports from people who claim that fluoridated water, I can't read today, guys, has caused health issues, including bone cancer, arthritis, and kidney disease. Research studies to support these claims are not definitive, according to Healthline. And then there's also a quote from a doctor that she said, basically, if we could just have dental health and we could have proper fluoride within our dental health and take care of our teeth, then we don't need to add fluoride to water. So that's what I got out of it, is like kind of going back to what Devin said earlier, is if we can go back to like, what are we trying to solve? If it's really that we're trying to solve dental health for consumers of water, then let's encourage them to have proper dental health and not add fluoride to water that could potentially, if research comes to show that it does impact children's IQ, like that to me is a big issue that I would rather just use the proper health care for my dental health.
Yeah.
So that's what I read out of this, and that's where I'm at.
So again, I have some takeaways from this. I think largely that this article is just kind of noise. There are some really important things that are not being discussed, which is a little bit what you're talking about. Our dental health care that we have in the United States, right? We're fortunate that we can have access to a higher level of care, but the reality, the lived reality of the average person is that dental health care is a luxury that sometimes, until it is glaringly in your face and you need to immediately take care of it, people who don't have a lot of expendable income are pushing it to the back burners. I speak about this like very personally because I was a 15-year-old teen parent who I did not get government assistance. I was impoverished. I had food scarcity. It was a real problem for me, and dental care access was not on my list of top priorities. I had to pay the bills. I had to make sure my child was fed. I had to get them to the doctor, co-pays, all of that stuff. So dental care was something that I felt like I could kind of put to the back burner until I couldn't. And that came in this very glaring way of like, I had let my own dental care go down the drain. And that bill, that having teeth removed, all of that stuff, oh my God, that was financially devastating for a one-income household, right? Let alone if your own child doesn't have great dental health care because you're not able to provide that for them. So what we have done as a society is we've decided to take care of people who can't afford those things. And by putting fluoride into the water, where in other places in the world it's naturally occurring at these levels. In Europe, it's naturally occurring at these levels. Or they put it in their salt, they put it in their milk. Milk is a huge way that they're adding fluoride into their diets in Europe. Here, we do it with the water. And that actually improves outcomes for dental hygiene in children by 25%. That is so important. And when you have like generationally poor areas like Appalachia, where my family is from, having access to free dental health care, having access to fluoride in the water can change your outcomes and like a substantial level. 25% is not something to turn your nose up at. So I think that there's a lot of fear-mongering around this topic. It's like a hot button thing that is made to create reactionary discourse. And I think that if we go back to the science of it and go back to what why we are putting it in there, and we can recognize the socioeconomic reasons as to why we were doing it, that there's some truths there that maybe we could focus more on and potentially just even improve our access to dental health care just in general.
Trisha, Morgan?
I have nothing else to add.
Yeah, you nothing?
No, that was great. I agree.
So we're going to continue following some of these headlines here. We really want to make sure that you have information, right? That you that we're tracking every single day the things that are going to make you and your family more healthy and happy, and we're going to continue to bring those things to you. And speaking of happy, it is December 4th today. That means Christmas is upon us, everybody. And if you haven't heard yet, the hottest gift this holiday season is the Burn Bootcamp book. You got to give the gift that keeps on giving this holiday season, the Burn Bootcamp book. It's right here on our set, as you can see. Right here in the middle. Morgan and I are proud to say that with the help of our team and the Burn Nation really getting behind the cause here, we're on the USA Today bestsellers list with the Burn book, and this is an amazing opportunity for you to give the gift that keeps on giving this Christmas. We are wrapping up here, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today and discussing these very important topics. And Christina, your debut on the podcast was fire. You did so good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah,
terrified.
you did
No,
so
you did
good.
great.
I knew you would.
Hey, thanks for listening out there, friends. And thank you to Trisha, Morgan, Christina for being here. And wherever you're at in the world, we love you guys. Keep moving. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.